Lagebesprechung beim Oberbefehlshaber West, Feldmarschall von Rundstedt. Links Generalfeldmarschall Sperrle. Rechts Marschall Rommel. Der Oberbefehlshaber West gibt einen Lageüberblick und nimmt die Meldungen der Wehrmachtbefehlshaber entgegen.
Im Hinblick auf unsere starken Anlagen, im Hinblick auf den vorzüglichen Geist unserer Truppe, auf die neue Bewaffnung und die Kampfmittel, die uns in die Hand gegeben sind, können wir den kommenden Ereignissen mit größter Ruhe entgegensehen und brauchen uns keine Sekunde den Kopf zerbrechen, ob es gut oder schlecht geht. Es geht bestimmt gut und ich glaube nicht, dass der Engel ein zweites Mal wiederkommt, wenn er hier den Versuch macht.
Johannes Erwin Rommel was a great German general and military theorist. In America, we call him Rommel, and that's how I'll refer to him from now on. Popularly known as the Wüstenfuchs, or Desert Fox, he served as Field Marshal in the Wehrmacht of Nazi Germany during World War II. After many years of service to Germany in both world wars, and with his precious Africa Corps no more, Rommel was tasked in 1944 with inspecting and shoring up the defenses of the Atlantic Wall on the French coast. Rommel had conflicted thoughts about Hitler. Before the war, Rommel favored the Nazi Party because it supported the military and boosted Germany's standing in the world after the humiliating defeat of World War I and the Treaty of Versailles. With the earlier successes in World War II, he still supported the Nazi regime as a military commander. As the defeats grew and time went on, however, he became disillusioned with how the war turned against Germany, and felt the only way out was to just end it. He mentioned this to Hitler on different occasions, but Hitler ignored his advice, citing the fact that the Allies demanded an unconditional surrender and not a negotiated peace. This is the situation map on July 20th, 1944. What expedited the attempt to assassinate Hitler by Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg and the plotters was the writing on the wall. In the west, the Allies had landed and established a foothold in Normandy on June 6th. In Italy, the Allies were unstoppable and relentless.
But even worse, the Soviets were in the process of destroying Army Group Center. This was a dire situation for Germany indeed.
The July 20th plotters in Berlin were not aware of Rommel's involvement and actually told the British that Rommel couldn't be counted upon. It is uncertain exactly when Rommel started plotting against Hitler, but we know that he was involved by May 1944. Rommel initially thought that the army could arrest Hitler and try him for war crimes. However, when Hitler arrived in France in 1944 to meet Rommel, his SS security detail was too strong, so no attempt was made. Soon, Rommel realized that the only way to end the war was to kill the Führer and his close associates and make peace with the Allies. Klaus von Stauffenberg had the rank of Oberst, which is the equivalent of colonel. He and the other plotters had made several attempts to kill Hitler, but each time something went wrong. Finally, they got so desperate because of the disaster on the Eastern Front that they decided to take extreme risks to kill Hitler. They finally saw their best chance on July 20th, 1944, at the Wolf's Lair field headquarters in East Prussia. After von Stauffenberg neglected to put the unarmed second bomb with the armed one, and the fact that the briefcase was moved behind the leg of the conference table, the blast killed a few officers, but only wounded Hitler. Since Hitler survived, he considered it his destiny to finish his work, and believed that things would turn around for the better. A furious Hitler demanded that Himmler arrest everyone involved in the plot. Over the following weeks, the Gestapo rounded up nearly everyone who had the remotest connection with the assassination attempt. The discovery of letters and diaries in the homes and offices of those arrested revealed the plots of 1938, 1939, and 1943, which led to further rounds of arrests. More than 7,000 people were arrested and 4,980 were executed. After many torturous investigations, the Gestapo found evidence linking Rommel to the conspiracy. Rommel's case was turned over to the Court of Military Honor. The drumhead court-martial convened to decide the fate of officers involved in the plot.
In this tense atmosphere, on October 14, 1944, Erwin Rommel was approached by two generals sent on behalf of Hitler with evidence of guilt and a message to convey to him.
They were driven by SS Master Sergeant Heinrich Dose in Bergdorf's Opel car. Rommel denied involvement in the plot, declaring his love for Hitler and saying that he would gladly serve his fatherland again, but they didn't buy it. They gave Rommel three options: report to Hitler to prove himself not guilty, face a treason trial in the People's Court. Rommel told his family that he would never make it to Berlin. Admit guilt, take poison, receive a state funeral, and obtain immunity for his family. Rommel could plead his case in front of Hitler. This would be the equivalent of saying that he wasn't guilty. There was a chance that he could win over Hitler, as it was done at the end of the war by General Helmut Weidling. Rommel probably didn't appear because he knew he was guilty and there was evidence against him, or he didn't believe he'd make it all the way to Berlin. Face the treason trial in the People's Court. This court always sided with the prosecution in love-giving show trials to further the Nazi regime's agenda. Hitler knew that having Rommel branded and executed as a traitor would severely damage morale on the home front. He also understood that putting Rommel on trial would be devastating and undermine the Nazi regime. Hitler preferred that Rommel take the quiet way out of suicide. Bergdorf had brought a capsule of cyanide for the occasion. The government would claim that he died a hero and bury him with full military honors, and his family would receive full pension payments. This would cover up the truth.
Rommel had seen truckloads full of soldiers in civilian clothes near his house and realized that he was trapped. His son and an aide proposed shooting their way out, but Rommel dismissed the idea.
After a few minutes alone, Rommel announced that he had chosen to end his own life.
With that in mind, Rommel explained his decision to his wife and son.
Wearing his Afrika Korps jacket and carrying his Field Marshal's baton, Rommel went to Bergdorf's Opel. Accompanied by Dose, Meisel, and Bergdorf, he was driven out of the village. The car stopped along a quiet country road a few kilometers from his home. Dose and Meisel walked away from the car, leaving Rommel sitting in the car with Bergdorf. 5 minutes later, Bergdorf gestured to the two men to return to the car, and Dose noticed that Rommel was slumped over, having taken the cyanide. Dose, while sobbing, replaced Rommel's fallen cap on his head. He was taken to the Wagner Schule Field Hospital. 10 minutes later, the group telephoned Rommel's wife to inform her of his death. Witnesses were struck by the smile of deep contempt on the dead man's face, never before seen in life, and his widow thought that this was contempt for Hitler. The official story of Rommel's death, as reported to the German public, stated that Rommel had died of either a heart attack or cerebral embolism, a complication of the skull fractures he had suffered in the earlier strafing of his staff car. To strengthen the story still further, Hitler ordered an official day of mourning in commemoration.
Marschall Rommel ist tot. Der Held von Afrika, der 2 Jahre lang durch eine wendige und einfallsreiche Führung und einen großen persönlichen Mut eine vielfache Übermacht des Feindes in Schach hielt. In einem Staatsakt nimmt das deutsche Volk Abschied von einem seiner tapfersten Generale. Mit ihm, so sagte der Führer in einem Tagesbefehl, ist einer unserer besten Heerführer dahingegangen. Sein Name ist im gegenwärtigen Schicksalskampf des deutschen Volkes der Begriff für hervorragende Tapferkeit und unerschrockenes Draufgängertum geworden. Generalfeldmarschall von Rundstedt legt nach seiner Gedenkrede den Kranz des Führers nieder. Die Bevölkerung einer süddeutschen Stadt umsäumt den letzten Weg des großen Soldaten.
Lucia and Manfred attended the state funeral. That must have been a hard thing to do, knowing all the information surrounding his death. As previously promised, Rommel was given a state funeral. The fact that a state funeral was held in Ulm instead of Berlin had, according to his son, been stipulated by Rommel. Hitler sent Field Marshal von Rundstedt, who was unaware that Rommel had died as a result of Hitler's orders, as his representative at Rommel's funeral. The body was cremated so no incriminating evidence would be left. The truth behind Rommel's death became known to the Allies when intelligence officer Charles Marshall interviewed Rommel's widow, Lucia, as well as from a letter from Rommel's son, Manfred, in April 1945. Today, there is a small museum in the villa of material relating to Field Marshal Rommel. Herrlingen is where he had his last house and where his ashes are buried. The Villa Lindenhof and the garden are also still very beautiful. Rommel's Gedenkstein is a short distance outside the village. One may have to ask for help in finding it. It's a bit off the road up a track.
Oktober 1944. Generalfeldmarschall Erwin Rommel, im Volksmund der Wüstenfuchs genannt, ist tot. Offiziell gestorben bei einem Autounfall in der Folge einer Embolie. In Wahrheit hatte sich Rommel das Leben genommen, unter Druck gesetzt durch Hitlers General Ernst Meisel. Rommel war in Ungnade gefallen, nicht nur, weil er als verantwortlicher General die Invasion der Alliierten in der Normandie nicht verhindert hat, sondern vor allem, weil es Material gab, das ihn in Verbindung brachte zum Widerstand gegen Hitler und zu den Attentätern vom 20. Juli. Weil Rommel aber in der Bevölkerung so beliebt war, wurde darüber nicht gesprochen. Vielmehr schlachtet das NS-Regime Rommels Tod noch einmal propagandistisch aus. So auch beim Staatsakt im Rathaus von Ulm, wo Generalfeldmarschall Gerd von Rundstedt am 18. Oktober 1944 die Trauerrede hält.
Der Führer und oberste Befehlshaber der Wehrmacht hat uns hierher berufen, um Abschied zu nehmen von seinem auf dem Felde der Ehre gebliebenen Generalfeldmarschall Rommel. Mit uns steht nicht nur die deutsche Wehrmacht, sondern das ganze deutsche Volk in ehrfurchtsvollster Trauer und in tiefem Schmerz an der Bahre dieses toten Helden. Darüber hinaus wird aber auch die uns feindliche Welt die Achtung einem Gegner nicht versagen können, der in Ritterlichkeit und soldatischer Größe stets das Schwert geführt hat. Auf dem Schlachtfeld der Normandie zog sich Generalfeldmarschall Rommel bei einem Kraftwagenunfall schwere Verletzungen zu. Ein hartes Schicksal riss den Feldherrn gerade in dem Augenblick von seinem Platze, als der Kampf sich seinem Höhepunkt näherte. Inmitten seiner Soldaten ist er auf dem Schlachtfeld schwer verletzt worden. Ein tragisches Geschick hat ihn nun uns auf immer entrissen.
Here are some videos from my channel that you might like.